Previously on 58 Keys, a video linked below, you and I pushed aside AI controversies and just concentrated on artificial intelligence tools that are good for us as writers. I mean, not good for writing, we're the writers, but good for getting us better research options for that. Organizing thoughts, that was another one. And actually in one case, just helping with the typing speed. It was quite fun. Today, yeah, we're still pushing the controversies out of minds a little bit. But instead, we're looking at 3 more good uses of AI for you and me as writers. Call it 3.5, okay? Because I'm trying something else out at the end. Hello, I'm William Gallagher, and this is 58 Keys, which, as ever, as always, is for writers. Writers like you and me who use and who write on Macs and iPhones and iPads. Do subscribe because we have so much to talk about, and possibly we have all this spare time now to talk in while AI takes over our jobs. Last time, actually, I realised last time in the episode link below, I didn't even mention Apple Intelligence, and I barely touched really on ChatGPT. The short version was that you can, and I had, find AI tools that are more specialised than what ChatGPT can do for us, but there are exceptions, and actually, let's do it. The first thing I want to show you today is one of these exceptions, somewhere where ChatGPT is the thing to use. You can use ChatGPT on the Mac to compare 2 PDFs. These days, when so much is emailed around in PDF form, I find, this might be just projecting here, but you can lose track of which version of something is which. And when you get a contract in PDF, you need to be sure it's what you agreed to, every detail. Because I wish this wasn't true, but it is, and you're not going to be surprised. There are stories of publishers and producers agreeing a contract with the writer and then, oops, accidentally altering the percentage, knocking a 0 off or something before sending over the final PDF for the writer and everybody to sign. Yeah, mind you, actually, I think this is true. I'm not so sure about this one. There's one story of a writer who did it to a publisher and increased their pay. Why can't we just all get on and trust each other? The reason that all of those things, the secretive changes and things are physically possible is partly because I think people assume PDFs can't be changed. And I don't know why, because, oh, can they be changed? Apple's own preview app on the Mac lets you do some things. Adobe Acrobat does more, and there are countless PDF editors that can alter the text within a PDF, make the text look as if that's what it was always saying, what was always written there. And then there's also the fact that people get away with this kind of stuff because actually it's really hard to read a very long document and pick up the tiny little changes that might be in there or might not. Yeah. If only we had computers or some sort of tool, maybe what you might even call an intelligent tool. Using ChatGPT for the Mac, you can upload 2 PDFs and get it to tell you what the differences are. It sounds so simple when we put it like that, but I've looked for tools like this, and I can think of a dozen times when I wish I'd had that in the past. I mean, I've not had that contract problem, I don't think, but I have so often had different drafts sent to me, or I was doing a book once where it would really have helped to see which version of a source document was the better, for want of a better term. And actually, quite often I need to read some legal PDFs. After you and I talk, I'm going to be doing that later, and there'll be some where there are versions and I'll need to see what's changed, if anything. That's the kind of thing that convinces me to try AI. Cut down the chores of research. To get ChatGPT for the Mac, go to OpenAI's site, link in the description. If you search the Mac App Store, you will find it, but you'll also find a million others. To get it for the iPhone and the iPad, you do have to go via the App Store, but I've got a direct link to the right one in the show description. Next, this is tricky. Tricky because it's great. It is absolutely the best thing ever in AI for you and me as writers, but there's a lot of choice, and the one I've chosen may not be the best. This is about transcription. When I think of the years spent manually playing back a recording, writing down the next couple of words that someone said, and then not being sure and winding back a moment to check, did I get it right? Did I not? What was, yeah. AI transcription is gold. I chiefly use a Mac app called Whisper Transcription, and that app is one of the reasons that, in fact, I was going to say it's 5 years since I've done this. I haven't manually written out every word of an interview I've recorded in at least 5, maybe 6 years. But there are so many other apps. I'm reluctant to wholeheartedly recommend any one of them anymore. Whisper Transcription, which I have previously recommended, it's still a bit clunky. And sometimes, for example, it has to be reminded that, yes, I have bought it. I am not on the limited free version. But, you know, once you've convinced it, it lets me talk into it, fine, but infinitely more usefully, it lets me drag in an audio file or a video actually into it, and then I can walk away while it transcribes every word. With the exception, I believe, of Otter.ai, which is its own thing and is very good, most transcription apps these days, most of them seem to be based on OpenAI's Whisper transcription tool, a transcription engine, if you like. That's what Whisper Transcription, the one I'm using, is based on. And I think overall what I want to do is recommend to you that you try a couple of these apps if you haven't already. And if you haven't already, and so you have still been manually transcribing interviews and speeches, you are going to hug your Mac, your iPhone and your iPad. Hug them with love and thanks once you've used any of these apps. Try out the one I use, Whisper Transcription for the Mac. I've also quite liked, not really into it yet, Super Whisper for the Mac. But really, just search the App Store for the words Whisper and Transcription, and you'll find a lot of them, all at varying prices. Just for one example, Whisper Transcription, this one I'm using, it used to be ridiculously cheap, but I think the developers cottoned on to how well it's doing because the price has gone up a bit. It's now £50, or I think $60 in the US for a lifetime license, or alternatively you can subscribe from £5 or definitely $5 a week. It's certainly worth looking around for more options though, and actually I think especially because that one is Mac only. Actually, on the Mac, the iPhone and the iPad, you could try out Apple's own voice memos app, because that now, well, you can record audio into it like you always could, but then the app now automatically and for free transcribes it. So fine when you've got voice memos open and you're recording a thought or an interview, but you can't actually do this thing of dragging a pre-recorded audio file into it to be automatically transcribed as you can with any of the AI tools. Funny thing, Whisper, that Whisper transcription engine, it's made by OpenAI, which makes ChatGPT, so you'd have assumed you could just use ChatGPT for transcription. Maybe you can, but when I tried it, it said no. Okay, but speaking of ChatGPT, next up is a combination of that and Apple Intelligence. I was going to go off on one there. I tell you what, let me show you before I go. But earlier today, actually, I opened Apple Maps up. I was intending to show you this thing, but I found that on Apple Maps, it was, well, I've not one thin clue what this thing is that it was showing me. For some reason, totally lost to time, I must have searched for something in Apple Maps, and this is where it brought me. It brought me to this Bear Mountain shooting range. Okay, let's turn to Siri. Tell me about this place and why in the world I was looking it up. Yeah, why not? Let's just ask. It's AI. As part of Apple Intelligence, when Siri itself can't answer a question, it throws it to ChatGPT, but it does ask your permission first. Okay, in this case, ChatGPT came back with an answer. Pretty much, an answer of sorts, quite a good answer. I mean, no. I didn't look it up because I'm going hiking in Arkansas. I'm in the UK. And it occurs to me now, actually saying this to you now, to figure out where this was, I could have just zoomed back out of the map, couldn't I, to see where I was. Didn't think of that in time. But give Siri and ChatGPT some credit. Together, they told me, they got the right place. They told me something about it. It's supposed to be able to do more. For instance, when I did zoom back out of the map, I couldn't figure out where I was to zoom back in again. So, okay, now I searched for this shooting range thing, which I'm sure is a fine place. And then when it was there, I asked Siri and ChatGPT, where's the nearest Apple store? Ah, well, could have worked. Oh, I didn't say but. But when you use ChatGPT directly, you are helping training it, you are giving it information, and in fact personal information, and frankly it has plenty already. When you use ChatGPT via Siri, it gets nothing. It answers your question and it shuts up. It doesn't get to know, for example, what type of device you were on when you're asking it. It can't get anything you could potentially sell on to somebody. So Siri, even in its current nascent Apple Intelligence form, is already a good route to ChatGPT. I should say, though, speaking of Apple Intelligence, if you weren't a writer and you did know about Apple Intelligence, I'm sure you would unconsciously expect me to be using its writing tools, for any writer to be using free writing tools in Apple Intelligence. No. I've just no interest in it. Actually, if you are a writer who subscribes to the Grammarly proofreading app, well, in that case, you might want to see what you think of Apple's free proofreading service. I mean, free is definitely cheaper. Apple Intelligence appears to be actually free. Apple Intelligence is free on those expensive devices that it runs on. But there's also this, this is just hearsay. I have been told that Grammarly has become poorer in recent years, and possibly ironically, because apparently it's been adding AI features. So if you use Grammarly, try Apple Intelligence, see what you think. I might well use Apple Intelligence's proofreading. I will just never use its ability to make my text shorter or friendlier or more threatening or whatever else it can do. That's not the thing I said. You know, right at the start, I said I was trying out one more thing. What I'm trying out is Google's NotebookLM. Shortest version. You know this. All AI generative tools are based on large language models which contain inconceivable amounts of data scraped from the web and from you and me. When you type the word merry, an LLM will know that 11 billion people usually follow that word with Christmas, so it will use that to suggest this too. It's not really intelligence, is it at all? But yeah, what NotebookLM sets out to do is be a blank slate for you to fill in. It is your eventually large language model used only by you and with data only provided by you to it. So I have been trying out, just as an example, chucking the 58 Keys writing workshop videos into that to see what happens. And so far what happens is it's a bit tedious actually adding this stuff. If you are a Google Docs or a Google Drive user, I believe it's quicker. I think you can have some kind of automation going on then so that things you write just kind of go in there by themselves. Yeah. And actually, I expect that if I do keep going with this, as I make a new workshop video, it's not going to add a lot of steps to just have, bung in the URL into this. No. That was actually a couple of weeks ago now, but I wanted to just jump in at the end here to add something. I mean, partly actually, I want to admit that after a few weeks, I haven't got around to adding a single thing more to NotebookLM. But I also want to show you something that I did do, something that I found later, I think, which actually, I mean, it's really impressive, but it is the sole reason I am now thinking of doing a bad AI episode at 58 Keys. NotebookLM, right, can entirely, by itself, generate a podcast with two people speaking as if they were doing a show about whatever information you have uploaded to it. In my case, well, it was a handful. The 58 Keys writing workshop videos, I transcribed a few of those, chucked those in, and have a listen to this, please.
Well, that's precisely why we're here. Welcome to the deep dive. We've been immersing ourselves in these really engaging YouTube workshops by the writer William Gallagher.
Right, William Gallagher, he's got a lot of experience.
He does. And our mission, to unpack his essential thinking on writing effective reviews and also the power of location, narration, and subtext in stories. Stuff that's maybe overlooked sometimes.
Yeah, indeed. Gallagher's background gives such a well-grounded and insightful perspective on these really fundamental elements. It's a chance to get past just the surface level, and really grasp the principles that make writing impactful.
Okay.
It goes on and on. I suppose you and I could take away from this that it's startling how believable those podcast characters are. I mean, the man's patronising the woman, so yeah. But what I really take away from it is that it is unbearable bollocks. I mean, they sound as if I am some wonderful human being who is deigning to dispense my wisdom amongst the peasants of the world. God. I have seen this actually with ChatGPT. Generative AI, generative AI it's said to hallucinate. Stop that. It may not have been hallucinating me. That was unkind. And AI is also incredibly confident about its answers, even when they are wrong. But now, with both ChatGPT and, to an enormous extent, Google's NotebookLM, I think we can add that generative AI is absurdly patronizing. I do still like that it can compile information for me. I mean, DevonThink does that too. I'm looking to move to DevonThink. We'll see what happens. Wherever it is, it's a feature that's of genuine help to us as writers. But, oh, come on. I made it through 5 minutes of that podcast about my brilliance, and I just wanted to slap everybody. Wait, hang on. How long have you been watching? Yeah. Let's just say then, that's it for this edition of 58 Keys. Thank you very much for watching without slapping me. Now, take care of yourself, Write more, and I'll see you soon.